basically Nyla Rose Oklahoma issued a warning. The Oklahoma Athletic Commission issued a warning. News: I have received the minutes from January's Oklahoma Athletic Commission MTG about a transgender wrestler. In regard to Nyla Rose competing, the commission passed a motion to warn AEW not to do this again, or there will be punitive action taken. Basically, then Nyla Rose had a great response. Nyla the Riz Rose. She's fucking awesome on X as a follow, by the way. So here's the other thing. I didn't realize she was like transgender. I may have heard that, but I didn't even realize that. I think Hairline may have said it once on the show and was like, really? Like, I didn't even know. But who the fuck was it? Don't worry, Oklahoma. I'll find the dastardly transgender that checks notes, entertained fans. How dare they make people happy? Now, this is where basically, I guess, we don't need to get super deep into this, but here's my opinion on this shit. In actual sports, transgenders need their own division with like no weight classes or whatever. They can figure that out. Or like in actual sports where the outcome's not predetermined. I'm not going to say like an athletic endeavor. Like, I don't know. I like to say the professional wrestling sport. I think transgender should have their own division. And then I don't know what they do about weight classes and stuff, because I don't know how many of them there are to fill out a whole division, right? Maybe they just all compete against each other regardless, like an open weight until it gets there's more. I don't know, right? But I think otherwise you have to compete against what you're biologically born. And I'll justify that by saying, look at someone like Jon Jones. He's the greatest mixed martial arts competitor of all time, the greatest UFC fighter of all time, if you're unfamiliar with him. And he fought Alexander Gustafsson with estrogen levels, or he had like testosterone levels lower than like a 13-year-old boy or some shit. Or something like this. You can look it up. I'm talking out of my ass here, but you guys can look this up. Because he's been caught like taking EPOs and having pulses of fucking steroids in his system. So all I'm saying is that I understand people take medication or do whatever to therapy or to replace hormones and all of this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, someone like Jon Jones, who's a beast and is clearly a fucking a savage MMA fighter man, had like the estrogen levels of like a 13-year-old girl or some shit like that and beat the fuck out of a guy in a UFC fight. So my whole thing is like, we can't go based off that, because there's ways to alter like testosterone levels and stuff. So my whole thing is this: if you're going to compete, in real sports, it should just be what you're biologically born, or there should just be a transgender division for whatever sport they're doing, because we are seeing biological males win women's track meets and shit. Like, there's enough of that. I'm gonna just take the stance of that. But when it comes to like pro wrestling now, or like the circus, or like like American Gladiators, like, are you or whatever, like not like an athletic competition, maybe not that, because I guess American Gladiators would really fuck people up sometimes. But what I'm getting at is, when it comes to pro wrestling, dude, it's like a show. It's like, if anything, if I was a woman who had to would you rather get slammed by like a girl who can, or like a woman who can barely muster up your body weight, or do you want to get slammed by a potential, like Nyla clearly can power chicks up, man. You watch her in matches and she's fucking throwing girls up, getting them up for that beast bomb. Like, I don't know. If anything, like if I was like Tori Wilson and I was getting scoop slammed by fucking someone, do you want to be scoop slammed by someone who potentially is physiologically stronger or weaker? Just like, let me put it that way. So, because if people are trying to say like, oh, she might hurt someone, I disagree. I think she doesn't have a track record of hurting anyone. I think once she like landed on Britt Baker's leg after like a cannonball crush in the corner. I know I for surely made people mad one way or the other with my opinion on this, but that's my fucking opinion. So just to sort of summate my opinion on this, when it comes to sport where you may, I think biologically what you're born is what you should compete in. If you want it to be trans, that has to be a whole other division, and that has to be worked out with commissions and stuff like that. I think when it comes to pro wrestling, if you're still a state that considers pro wrestling a real sport, like your organization AEW needs to be on top of these things, know what sports have what states have what politics, blah blah blah, where is it considered a sport, and they need to be on top of these things and on the forefront of making a change with these things. For instance, UFC, they worked so hard. They got MMA legalized in Paris. They got it legalized in New York after years of dealing with corrupt politicians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think this is kind of fucking dumb. Personally, that they still consider it like a sport to where they're like, we're going to issue a warning to AEW. But then Tony Khan's catching heat because they're like, oh, will he still run a show there? Like a lot of the E-drones, if you will, I'm one of them, whatever. No, I'm both, dude. But a lot of the WWE diehards are like, oh, well, Tony will run a show there. Is he a bigot? Like, oh, this isn't the same stand. Like people are bringing up Vince and Saudi and trying to conflate these two issues. None of that. But I like how Nyla Rose handled it. And like she handled it with a fucking joke. And basically just exactly the main thing, like how dare she entertain people? Like it's not like she's really fighting people. So like if you're going to talk about like Fallon Fox was a big topic of discussion in the Joe Rogan sphere, like MMA, a biological like no, I just don't really agree with that. But if we're talking pro wrestling or the circus or cheerleading or fucking whatever, a predetermined, what are those shows, the medieval times where they sword fight like fucking knights and they put on a show, I'm cool with it, so whatever. Sorry if I made you guys mad. Sorry if some of you guys applaud my take. That's my take on it. And yeah, I want your take on this, Paul Nolan.
The question that I initially want to ask the Oklahoma Athletic Commission is, they know it's scripted, right? It's that thing. It's like, they know wrestling's fake, don't they? I mean, I agree with absolutely every single word of what you've said there, Phil.
Thank you. I felt like I bumblefucked my way through that, though. And I'm like, dude, I probably triggered so many people, but I was trying to be...
And that is the problem, right? So
yeah, objective.
The problem is when you bumblefuck your way through it, it's because you're worried about having a word out of place. When what you're all really doing is just giving a rational, well thought out opinion, and you're giving perspective. And everything you said, I pretty much agree with. I am not in favor of, biological males competing in combat sports against biological females,
or breaking like weightlifting records. It's unfair.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do agree with the open category concept, and even within that, you have, and I'm not equivocating here. In fact, I'll use a different, because the comparison I was going to make would actually trigger people. But in motor racing, for example, I'm big into like Formula One, sports cars, that kind of thing, like Le Mans 24-hour type stuff.
Awesome.
And in the Le Mans 24-hour, we have something called BOP, which is balance of performance, which is designed to, say, for example, if one car is lighter than the other, you add weight to the lighter car in order to slow it down. And it's like in horse racing, where they have the handicap where they add weight to try and equalize the performance. It's a similar thing, like, and you can do that within open categories, so you get a more interest, and then you can gradate it. So you could actually get some very interesting categories within an open category. So there's actually something to be explored there that from a sporting perspective could be very, very interesting and lead to some great competition. Dude, it's fucking wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, this shit's like, I mean, we can say it's like beautifully constructed sports-based performance art, and we're also fully within our rights to go, shit's fucking fake when it's
dude, exactly.
Right? At the end of the day, Nyla Rose is perfectly entitled to perform any way she likes under any form of identity that she likes. And, from what I've seen of her, she's a great wrestler. And the fact of the matter is, I love what you said before about, like, do you want to be scoop slammed by Nyla Rose or, like, I don't know, Zelina Vega, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that thing. It's like, and on even on the men's side, it's like, CM Punk said the safest match of his entire career he had with Brock fucking Lesnar.
Yeah.
Because Brock just, like,
He can put you
him.
where you want, where you need. Now, again, I don't want to be insensitive and be like, oh, Nyla manhandle you, whatever. But all I'm saying is,
she has a physical advantage. She has
right,
a physical advantage.
and you see all the wrestlers standing on her side, and Nyla, again, I didn't even really realize she was trans, but the whole thing is until like this really all got drummed up, but then I was like, I think I did know that, but I just didn't pay it really honestly no mind. But the thing is like you see videos of like, there might be someone who, I don't know, it doesn't seem like she's doing this to try and break fucking weight lifting records or whatever. You see people who clearly are kind of this, it's sort of like an you know what I'm getting. I'm trying to not piss anyone off, I guess. So anyways, your thoughts on it. She just doesn't seem like she's fronting. Like it seems like Nyla's Nyla. This is who she is, dude. Make your arguments, your political arguments or whatever you think it is, like on transgenderism, but I think she's legit, that's all I'll leave there, that's all.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, you go ahead.
She'll just go and entertain people to the best of her ability.
Exactly.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. And when it comes down to stuff like this, I have absolutely no problem at all. It's well presented, and to be honest, what I would do in that situation is that I would immediately book a show in Oklahoma, and I would immediately book her in the main event. Very similar to what happened when, I can't remember where it was. It might have been New York or somewhere else. Back in the day, they had like a no blood rule in wrestling. Right. And then apparently there was a Triple H match where he got busted open so hard. It was like, there was just like, he had the crimson mask. He was just like bleeding all over the canvas. And they did it deliberately to make a point. And to be honest with you, if Tony's got any fucking balls, which I'm clearly questioning the fact that I've even said it, that would be exactly what he should do. He should back his talent, make a statement. AEW has made pains to be behind transgender rights. I mean, just look at Punk with his t-shirts and him standing next to signs and
that triggered people too, eh?
Yeah, it triggered a lot of people. And at the end of the day, mate, it's an emotive and very complex subject with no
it is, bro.
And the fact of the matter is that we've all got our takes on it. I prefer to keep a lot of my takes on it fairly private, and also it's kind of like nothing to do with me. It's like whatever you want to do, bro.
That's what it is with me. It's like I don't fucking it's like it has nothing. Yeah. It's not my. It
doesn't harm me.
Yeah,
it doesn't harm me in any way. It doesn't affect me in any way. And I understand that it does affect some people, but by the same token, it just to sort of like boil it down to the essential point, like this is just ludicrous.
Yeah, it's just so and it's shitty that she's been because I always put her over too. I was like, man, like that's like your main big beast, the native beast. And shout out my native people. I always got to hold it down for my native people, man.
No, of course, man. It's not as if she's an unsafe worker. It's like
that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, where has she hurt people? So here, this is the point I wanted to make. Nyla Rose, or pardon me, Nia Jax. Damn, their names so similar. Now that I'm gonna mix them up now that I'm saying them at the same time. Nia Jax in the Rumble got beat up by like 4 dudes in Oklahoma, and no one else was crying about it. You know what I mean? So let's just put it. We all were like, "Damn, that was crazy." She got RKO'd at 6 foot 9. So we can beat her ass with 4 dudes, but Nyla Rose can't fucking wrestle whoever she's wrestling, right? So Athena, hopefully, that would be who I'm built like. I don't know, dude. Those women need to be called up from ROH. Like, bring Nyla Rose up, bring fucking Athena up. Shout out Athena.
As we know, Tony, despite even bringing in the likes of Mercedes Moné, doesn't give a shit about women's wrestling.
So yeah, dude, we spent a good chunk of time on that. I didn't want to spend too much time, but I don't know. I bumblefucked my way through it. But if you're triggered by anything, who gives a fuck? Just be cool. We're here to talk wrestling. We had to talk about it. We can't just like ignore things like this because you might get triggered, folks. So I appreciate you all for, I don't know, have your opinions, discourse it out in the comments. So okay, that was the we're gonna get into some, I guess, lighters, because that is sad that Oklahoma's just being like, I don't know. It just like, okay, that's just last thing. And like Nyla obviously feels singled out by that. It's like opens up a door to like single someone out and just shine a spotlight on like shit that no one's even talking or thinking about. Like, you know, and I just feel bad for her in that way. So that's why I also approached it where I was like, damn, it's kind of a negative thing, but everyone's cooking Oklahoma. So that's the last we'll say on it. They're getting cooked. Dummies.